In this video, we're talking about conquering insurmountable odds step by step. Hey, Hey guys, welcome to this week's video where we're talking about how to overcome tremendous odds one step at a time. But before we get going, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. I'm so happy you're here, you're joining us. Thanks for sharing these videos. I've been getting word from a lot of parents and coaches and athletes that you're sharing these with other people. I love to hear it. Thank you so much for helping us grow this channel, and join me on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter. I love to hear from you. Let's get into it. A lot of times we go through life and things are just so hard that you don't even want to get started, because the voice in your head is saying, why try if I know I'm going to fail? Or maybe you're in you've experienced where you're making progress, and then you start to plateau, or even feel like you're going backwards. Things that you used to be able to do, you're not able to do. Things that you should be able to do, you're not able to do. And not only are you getting frustrated, but people who are around you are getting frustrated with you, telling you, you should be doing this. Why are you struggling? What's the problem? What's wrong? And some people might be getting mad at you and saying, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't do this anymore. I'm going to take you out of this sport because you just can't do it. It's extremely frustrating. So what do? About 6 years ago, I had the chance to work with a very, very good cheerleading team. Yes, cheerleading team. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with competitive cheer, these are some tremendous athletes. They are tumbling, they're running, they're throwing each other up in the air. It's incredible. And the energy at these competitions is incredible. It's high energy, it's a lot of positivity, it's a lot of movement, choreography. It's incredible. There's one athlete in particular who was a former gymnast. She comes up to me and she tells me that there's a move she has done since she was a little girl in her gymnastics days, the back handspring. She did it when she was younger. She's done it her entire young career. It was very easy. Now, one day she saw a teammate of hers get injured doing the back handspring, and for some reason, she couldn't do it anymore. She had a mental block. And so we went to the mat. I said, okay, let me see you do it. And she was stuck. She was paralyzed. Her mom came to me, her dad came to me, her coach came to me and said, she can do this. She used to be able to do it, now she can't do it at all. So her and I sat down and we came up with different tactics and strategies. She was able to do it on the trampoline. She was able to do it with a spotter, but she just couldn't do it by herself when it mattered most. And I asked her why. She said, well, because I'm afraid of getting hurt. I'm afraid of getting hurt just like my friend did. The image in her mind just kept playing over and over, her getting injured. And so we did a little bit of visualization. We did a little bit of self-talk. We did some other things. But the one thing that we did that I think was the most beneficial was this. I bought her a jar, a clear jar, and I bought her hundreds of marbles. And she came to me one day in the gym and I said, I have a gift for you. She goes, what's that? I hand her an empty jar and I hand her hundreds of marbles. I said, what I want you to do is I want you to go home and I want you to practice your back handspring. Do it on a bed. Do it on your trampoline at home. And she's like, well, I need to do it in real life and I can do it on those. I said, it doesn't matter. Go practice doing it there. And then when you can, move to grass and then move to a pad and just keep getting better. Every time you do it perfectly, you're gonna take one of these marbles and you're gonna put it in the vase. But it has to be perfect. It has to be the best you could possibly do. And so she agrees, and I tell her parents are like, okay, this sounds great. And so she puts the jar in her room and she goes and she practices. Day after day, week after week, she keeps adding little marbles to her vase. Over and over. It comes to practice. Every time she executes it with either on the trampoline or with a spotter, she puts it inside of the vase. Next thing you know, weeks pass. She comes into the gym with this huge vase full of marbles. and she puts it down on the table. And she looks at me and she goes, here it is. And I was astonished. I did not think she was gonna fill the vase as much as she did, to be quite honest, but she was dedicated. She was dedicated to getting her back handspring back. And she looked at it and I looked at it and I said, wait, do you know what this means? Not knowing how she was gonna answer. And she confidently looks at me and she smiles. She goes, yes, it means that I'm ready to do a back handspring. And wouldn't you know it, something clicked in that little mind of hers and she was able to go out there and do a back handspring with no problem. Now, why do I share this with you? What is the lessons, or what are the lessons that we can pull from this that can pertain to you in whatever you do? Now, I don't imagine you're gonna go out and do back handsprings from here on out, but the principles that we can learn from this could be applied to anything that you do. Principle number 1, get help. She was not afraid to be vulnerable. She was not afraid to go to her parents, to go to her coach, or to come to me and say, I'm afraid to do back handsprings. I used to be able to do it, but now I can't do it. She was willing to lean into embarrassment. She was willing to get outside of her comfort zone. She was willing to share her discomfort, her vulnerabilities with other people. She didn't care what other people thought. She didn't care what her teammates thought about her as she was going back to the basics. She was doing drills that she did when she was a little girl, and her teammates saw her. She did it in front of everybody, but she didn't care. She wanted to get the help that she needed in order to conquer this adversity she was going through. And so my question to you is, what's the help you need? Who do you need to go to? Who can you share your struggles with that you're not sharing? Maybe some of you watching this are quietly struggling. Maybe you do need help, but you're too prideful to share it with somebody. You're too prideful to go to your parent, to a coach, to a boss to say, you know what? I need help with this. Maybe people think you're a lot stronger than you really are. Maybe you're carrying it so well that people don't even think you need help. Just because you're carrying it well doesn't mean it's not heavy. Go get the help you need. Lesson number 2, break it down into small pieces. She wasn't just gonna go and do the back handspring just by telling her, by practicing. She had to take the back handspring and she broke it down into tiny elements. Now, I'm not gonna pretend I know what those elements are, but we broke it down. And every time she executed those elements, it was represented by a tiny little marble. She was able to break it down into one tiny little small step, little by little. And so if you look at your situation, how can you take your mountain, how can you take this big problem and break it down into tiny steps for you? How are you gonna do that? What does that even look like? What does a tiny step look like for you? And it's tiny, it's something you can control, it's something you can do, and it's something that doesn't take a lot of willpower, a lot of effort. Tiny steps lead to tremendous progress. Lesson number 3, keep score. With every marble that she put into the vase, it was a point. It was a vote of confidence for her. It showed her that she can actually do it. It was a symbol of effort that she was trying, giving her best every single day. And as she laid in her bed, as she went into her room every day and she saw that jar getting filled with marble after marble after marble, she was able to look at it and say, look at all of my work. It was data for her. Now for you, how are you keeping score? How are you keeping track? What's your data? Make it up. It doesn't matter what it has to be. It could be a number, it could be a marble, it could be a checkpoint, it could be an X, it could be a calendar. You decide what you want it to be, but you need to be able to look at something and measure your progress, to be able to show yourself that you're taking these bite-sized chunks and you're actually executing on them. It's easy to think it and have it in your mind, but it's even more helpful if you can visually see it. And lesson number 4, celebrate success. For her, for this young gymnast, every time she put a marble in the vase, that was a celebration that she executed that tiny step. Celebrate your successes. How are you gonna do it? It could be completely up to you. It could be a verbal celebration. It could be sharing your success with other people, whatever you need it to be. Because as you celebrate your success, as you celebrate those tiny steps that you're taking, you're reinforcing good behavior. You're reinforcing those steps that you're taking towards progress. Because what happens to a lot of us is we don't celebrate the progress. We don't celebrate the little steps. What we do instead is, oh yeah, you should have done that. You're telling yourself, why should I celebrate something I should be doing already? But what we end up doing when you don't do it, you beat up on yourself. So you have this, you beat up on yourself when you don't do it, and you don't celebrate success when you do it. And so you can see just how unbalanced your emotions are. Beating up on yourself when you don't do it, and you don't even celebrate it when you do it. What I'm saying is to reverse it. Celebrate yourself when you do those tiny little things, even if it's something that you believe you should be doing. Because when you're struggling, even those tiny successes need to be celebrated. Maybe you need to celebrate yourself for the interim, for the beginning process, especially when things are bad. And don't beat up on yourself so much when you don't do those tiny little things. Make sure you celebrate success. So there you have it. 4 principles you can apply to help you overcome any adversity that you're currently facing. If the mountain is big, it doesn't matter. Break it down into small steps. Get the help you need. Celebrate success. Measure progress. All of these things can help you win the day, win the morning, overcome obstacles. And remember, we always talk about it. Little by little, a little becomes a lot.